Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on a brand new edition of the NewsX Business World Panels on the Indian economy, our special show, of course, which has been decoding the current state of the Indian economy and how we are going to rebound back to the high growth levels that we were in the pre-COVID era. As always, we have a power-packed panel. Joining us live today on the broadcast is Kaural Dasgupta, author and founder, Tell Me Your Story. Khushnud Khan, co-founder and CEO of Arzu.com, is also joining us live. Milind Sharma, partner, 35 North Ventures India Discovery Fund, is with us live. Yashwant Deshmukh, founder director, Sea Voter International, is joining the panel as well. Dr. Anurag Batra, editor-in-chief, Business World, is live with us on the broadcast as always. Welcome all of you and thank you so much for being with us today. Kaural Dasgupta, let's begin with you first on where the current recovery is, or have we not begun, Kaural Dasgupta? Because we're looking, of course, at the economy worldwide, which has gone into a slump. Many countries in, of course, Europe and America are imposing fresh lockdowns. We in India have not yet had to do that. But in terms of our story right now, how close to the recovery are we? And how much really have the government stimuluses, Kaural, helped your sector in particular? We've seen 3 rounds now, the most recent of which was, of course, last week. How much has that impacted your sector positively?
The way I have seen it, I'll tell you a little about the way I operate. I often take public transport when I'm having to travel to connect with a level which is lower in status, lower in economic status than I. And so when I travel by auto, I often talk to the driver and try to understand how they are operating. And you would be very surprised with the kind of entrepreneurship, with the kind of zeal that they show just to survive. And I think that is the biggest thing about India, that in spite of the gravest situations, we have had that zeal that we have to survive, and we find our own ways. So there was this auto guy who told me that when the lockdown had set in and he was out of business, he traveled to his native land in Banaras, a village in Banaras, and that was he traveled by auto, and that costed him 6,000 rupees. So what he did was he picked up 3 more passengers, and they split all the costs and everything related to the travel. The way I have understood or experienced it is that the biggest thing that we have to do, and the biggest thing that we can do, is to build up the morale, because there is a lot of distrust, there is a lot of questions at lower levels regarding survival. And right in the beginning of the lockdown, with a little experience that we have of experiencing the world through news that comes through internet, my husband sat down to discuss, and we figured that my immediate response to this particular lockdown and the overall slump in business was that we have to cut costs. And we then started discussing, and what we realized was that if we cut costs, it would be a very myopic step to take. Rather, we have to find ways to increase our income, find ways to not sink. And at our levels, we have technology to help us. But if we try to cut costs, at whichever level we do it, it could be a coffee outside, or it could be any other luxury item that you want to consume. The worst hit at every level of every sector are those who are at the grassroots. And so if we cut costs, the ones that will be affected will be at the grassroots. So instead of cutting costs, we have to find innovative ways to survive, innovative ways to take ourselves forward, so that those at the grassroots do not perish.
That is my question, just to build on this question, Kaural. So you come from the creative arts, I'd like to call people like you cultural entrepreneurs, right? Now, our people have more time. We have this whole do-it-yourself economy. So are people telling their stories more? Are more books being published? Are more books being written? Give a sense of what's happening in terms of book publishing.
Anurag sir, you have raised a very beautiful question, and let me tell you that in terms of book publishing, the traditional publishers had gone down in their publications, and they are taking very conservative approach towards publishing. And they are going for either extremely branded personalities who are coming in as authors, or they are going for content which is a sure shot hit and there's a need for that in the market. But at individual levels, there are lots of people who are going for self-publishing, who are going for direct KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing. So a lot of people are going there and using their network to publish, to keep themselves afloat, if not survive with that money. But they are finding ways to, put their product, put their content out there in the market so that there is some product. The most important thing that I understand that if you are an author, you cannot be driving a rickshaw, because if you are doing that, you don't have time for doing this. So it's unlikely that you are from that level. So when a person's bread and butter is taken care of by some way or the other, they have some time to make use of their brain.
Why writing is a profession by itself. You make money by writing, you make money by doing speeches around your book. So that's a whole new career in a new industry. Yashwant, today we are not talking to you as a pollster. We're talking to you as an entrepreneur. Now, market research has changed in the last 8 months. We have tracking data of people who have COVID. We've seen the heat maps in terms of where COVID is prevalent. Also, we all are spending much more time online. So you can actually, with e-commerce growing, you can also map consumer behavior in terms of purchase. Tell us, what is the pivot you've taken in the last 8 months in your research company to be able to deal with the new normal? I know you're now based in Dubai, but do a lot of work in India. How is the Dubai market doing, and how do you look at India sitting in Dubai?
Well, it's a different genre market altogether. I mean, when we are talking about a data collection point of view and analytics point of view, very different. I mean, first of all, just now I've concluded the US presidential polling as well. So I know for sure that when I first polled in 2008, Obama's first term, we did CATI, full 100% telephonic. In 2012, we did a mixed mode. Even then, at that point of time, the online was not really in, because it was considered unscientific. Then the economic slump happened and the entire Western outlook towards data collection went online simply because it was cheaper to do. Unscientific, yet cheaper to do. So what happened, that research fraternity started looking out for the ways how to say this is scientific and this is good enough. So 2016 onward, everything started going online. Now 99% of the research, particularly after the COVID happened, it just happened, COVID became a good rallying point to convert everything online. But the problem with the upcoming markets or emerging markets like India or Southeast Asia or even Africa as a continent itself is that even 100% data penetration in terms of mobile telephony, mobile is a great thing, Anurag. We have discussed this so many times. It's probably the best social equalizer India ever witnessed, mobile telephony. Everybody's got, we have seen that happening. अब sabzi wale ke paas mein bhi hai, rickshaw wale ke paas mein bhi hai, everybody's got one. But having a mobile in hand, having a mobile with data in hand, doesn't mean the person is digitally literate or in a position to answer or access the content. They can listen, they can watch, they can speak. This is why in the developing countries we maintain that we have to keep on data collection by interaction on the telephone, on the telephonic interviews. That's why we continued. When COVID happened, it just happened so that I was coming back from a conference of ISSP conference in Prague, and majority of my friends over there international, they said this is something, and this was in January, mid-January, and they said it's not going in right direction. And I called up my colleagues in New Delhi and I said, man, whatever it is, figure out the technology and consider that within a month we have to shut down and we have to work at home. And I went after them. And fortunately, we Indians are good in jugaad technology.
Yes.
I mean, that's the biggest. And
I don't like the word jugaad.
Exactly.
I don't call it frugal innovation.
Yeah.
I'd like to call it frugal innovation.
Yeah. But that's a perfect legit thing for us to see that we find a way out. So when I said to my IT team that, we have got more than 100 researchers coming to our office and they are doing interviews in 11 languages all across India.
Yes.
Now I want this decentralized. And they figured a solution. And It took about 10 days. And now, as on today, we are talking, Anurag, I'm so happy to report that not a single day our operation was down. Today, more than 100 researchers of Seawater, interviewing in 11 languages, are doing it from their home. You know, it's technically possible. It was done, and this is why our Bihar operations and US operations, everything went smooth. But the thing is that what we learned, now we have a question. We are getting our office, building constructed in Noida. You know that I've discussed that with you. And now we are scratching, do we really need that infrastructure?
Yashwant Deshmukh, since you do have, of course, a polls, you are a pollster at the end of the day. You're better known in the media, of course, as being, of course, the pioneer behind Seawater, one of the premier, data analytics companies which we use for our exit polls and opinion polls and whatnot. I'm sure you must have done multiple surveys and had your data teams working on this aspect as well, on consumer sentiment and investor sentiment. How has it changed, through these last few months, and where do things stand right now?
Brilliant question. I see that we have not really faced that kind of distress. For few of the very clear microeconomic trends, I'm not an economist, but in the COVID tracker, we have been asking some of the very, very critical questions from the Aam Aadmi's perspective. Like one question that we asked, आपके पास में कितने दिन का खाने का राशन है, या फैमिली को सर्वाइव करने का पैसा है? How many days can you really survive without in the shutdown, without going for a job? So when the lockdown happened, we started tracking this question on a daily basis. And our idea was that initially, big number of people were like less than a week, almost like 80%. To our surprise, that number started coming down, and more than a week started coming. We thought that, okay, this is probably because people are holding and, spending the money, and they won't get food items and like that. And we were expecting that about 4 to 6 weeks into the lockdown, and then this less than a week will shoot up again. To our surprise, till the date we are talking, till yesterday's data, that has never shot up. It's so odd. And when I tried to make sense of that data with many of the economist friends, I realized that there were some things which were blessing in disguise, probably, that this COVID lockdown and this entire thing happened during the harvest time. There was one harvest season when people, the migrant labor, used to generally go back to, their villages. But that was preponed. That happened 4 to 6 weeks early. So they were there at the harvest season. So they were better hands at home, number one. Number two, they knew that they are not going to get back to the work so very quickly. So in the next sowing season of paddy, they remained there, and the rural India, by courtesy of reinvesting themselves into the agriculture full time. You see, what happens is that in the times of crisis, the older people, the elder people in villages, they rasoi bhari honi chahiye, anna hona chahiye. That fundamental of the humanitarian survival, that you must have enough grains at home. I think the entire rural India went back to those basics. And in the last 7 months, we have seen almost 70% of India only focused on one thing, ghar mein, rasoi mein anna hona chahiye. And once that was ensured, this is why that kind of distress was not there. Bhukmari nahi thi. People were not dying because of hunger. Of course, the central government and state government schemes and all those things have, but I'm talking about extremely fundamentals. Now, coming back to your consumer thing, are people going to spend a lot? We just completed a very good report, a consumer confidence report with a couple of colleagues in American universities. Anurag, it was so surprising. In a state like Bihar, we realized, first of all, the media consumption going digital. State like Bihar, people who were in the active campaign period, where you see that during the election, the campaign would be higher. More than 50% in a state like Bihar said that they are following the news on phone, number one. Number two, the print media was bouncing back. That is another thing. Number three, none of them said that they don't wish to purchase or they don't wish to buy during the upcoming festive season. They said that, कम हो जाएगा, लेकिन ऐसा थोड़े ही कि खरीदेंगे नहीं.
Yes.
And their big ticket big ticket things, purchases, they were only trying to shift those things for few months. One more thing that interesting that I think all of us observe this, just that I'm talking from the data point perspective. We overlapped one complete wedding season in India. All right, weddings used to be big ticket purchase things. All right, so that actually, Anurag, classically culminated in saving of families. Please realize.
Yes, you're right.
You know, there was.
I think families are saved for the first time, individuals are saved for the first time. And my hunch is that, real estate will see a revival because for the first time, millennials are spending so much time in their homes, they will see a value in buying their home. Let me bring Milind and Khushnood into this conversation to make their initial comments before we get into discussion. Milind, as somebody who invests in entrepreneurs, who has a fund, you have shown confidence in the Indian market by raising a $100 million fund called the India Advantage Fund, focused investing in early stage startups. Now, clearly you believe that COVID has created opportunity which will accelerate entrepreneurship. Tell us, how do you see the market and how do you see things in terms of entrepreneurship? For example, for the first time, valuations are realistic. Entrepreneurs have a little more, realistic expectation of valuation. So give us a sense of how you view the market and where do you think it is headed?
Definitely, touching on the valuation point, definitely they turned out quite reasonable. And you'll be surprised that, we made an investment in a company which was valued at around 85 crores just 6 months back before pre-COVID. And we were able to invest, at a valuation of 45 crores. This is the kind of change that's come in, bad for the previous investors, but good for, investors like us, So valuation-wise, definitely, one thing is clearly visible that be it reality or be it, the companies, the valuation come down drastically and reasonably. This is good in the long time because some kind of froth has to be removed because the valuation has not actually, be it the stock market or be it the
unlisted. Stock market continues to be exuberant.
But I'll tell you, because stock market also what's happening is what you see is only for a handful of stocks, a couple of large cap stocks which are giving this kind of, buoyancy to the stock. But a majority of them, you'll be surprised that, stocks like mid cap ideas like NBCC and all, they are, last 7 years, they've not given any returns. The stocks are moving. So a stock market, though you see the index level, if you study the next level, lifetime high, definitely. But overall, the market breadth is not that great, So that this kind of, euphoria, it's become quite, one has to be very cautious, even we are very cautious. Though we have raised this fund, we are raising this fund for investment in times to come. But definitely we are having a very, very cautious approach. You see, next two, if you look at India, technically, we are in recession. How do you define recession? If 2 quarters of economic...
Technically, it is 3 consecutive quarters.
Even
economic classic definition.
Yes.
It's 3 consecutive quarters of degrowth constitute a recession. So technically, we are not in a recession. Technically, it's the third quarter. I think the October, November numbers have kind of very good.
Yeah.
So if you take that, we are not. And if the recovery continues like this, beyond Diwali, now the wedding season in a limited way is starting.
Right.
Alluded to that. Then we may not be in a recession and we may start crawling back, and hopefully by mid of next year we may be at levels.
Possible. Definitely. Possible, but
when
next
you as an entrepreneur today, what are the other mindset changes you've seen, Milind?
See, one thing, because we did see a lot of distress in the entrepreneurship as well. We came across a lot of entrepreneurs and they were quite demotivated. All of a sudden, nobody planned for this kind of thing. But the one thing, silver lining was there. Most of the online things, online models, they have come up. They have come up quite well. The recovery has been really good in the online space, and most of the deals were coming in the online technology space only. So that has been a savior, you can say. But otherwise, definitely, the models are very, very down for youngsters. The entrepreneurship spirit had come down to a certain extent because these kind of environment, because all of a sudden business coming down, crashing, and when the COVID started, nobody had planned for it. So having said that, definitely stress was there in the space. But now at least, because as I said, most of the deals are in the online space and more than technology space. So things are definitely looking up better. But I think going forward, things should improve only. And whatever reasonable valuation we saw, I think the valuation will also go up now in times to come. definitely next 2 quarters will be very, very, one has to look one has to watch very cautiously the next 2 quarters. But if everything is fine, if we are able to see, and one is
what are the
that,
sectors that you're,
pardon?
in what sectors, Milan, what are the sectors?
One sector which comes, I think the real recovery has to come when the real estate sector and the automobile sector, both of them, I think they should go at good recovery if this has to last. If this recovery has to last, then these are two sectors, which should do well going forward. I believe that, the way the registrations have gone up in all the major cities, across India in last 2 months, things are looking up better only for realty companies. Some of the companies have claimed that, these 2 months have been better, one of the best months in last couple of years, So that is the kind of interest we're seeing in the real estate. Which is very, very,
because, as I said, millennials are looking for homes for the first time.
Definitely, you're right.
And they're genuine buyers, they're users of real estate. They're not investors of real estate. Kushal knows you're in a B2B e-commerce scenario. You put a job at Flipkart to start this. Clearly, for a lot of people, COVID has been a game changer in a positive way. Give us a sense of what you do. Give our viewers a sense of what you do, and tell us what are the opportunities you see.
Absolutely. Thank you. So COVID, as you say, it certainly has kind of created adversity and opportunity both together. It's been an opportunity for people in digital space because COVID has pushed the digital agenda forward. But having said that, when economy goes through a slump like this, it impacts everyone. It impacts whether you are in digital business or physical business. So of course, every startup like us were an early stage startup and growing fast, have gone through a phase which was kind of difficult when the entire nation is on the lockdown for about 60 to 90 days. And there were some self-regulated lockdowns that extended the whole lockdown. So your whole economy was kind of at standstill.
Not only demand, but supply was constrained.
And your vehicles not moving. If you see even that it was almost at a standstill, which means the commercial vehicles are not moving. So there was not much on the supply side for you to do. And this is exactly what happened when lockdowns and markets started opening. We saw a massive kind of rise in demand, but there was a constraint on the supply side, as you rightly said, because your supply side, your factories have been locked down, your vehicles have not been moving. So that took some time. But since, as I said, this has given push to a digital agenda. The people, since we are Arzu being in a B2B space, we work with the audience who has never understood or given much attention to kind of technology like this. The typical physical, standalone, fragmented neighborhood retailers, they have never worked so close with technology, and they thought that physical retail business is their domain and they can do this without technology. But a circumstance like this, it has created a kind of need for them to adopt this digital space faster. So we have seen a lot of attraction to a platform like ours from retailers and retail audience to come and adopt to a platform like this. So that has given a push to our story, and for platform like us, this has been a kind of post-lockdown, especially.
But Kushal, you're dealing. I know that I call your sector the Kirana Tech, and there are multiple players. And I must declare I'm an investor in one of those platforms. And, I can only tell you that Mr. Ambani is also trying to do this in partnership with Facebook, and they have WhatsApp. What is the chance you have against?
Thankful for us. We are not in Kirana space. As you already said, it's extremely cluttered space. There are a lot of people trying to get a market share.
What's your sweet spot when you say the neighborhood?
Consumer electronics, consumer durable space is what we operate in. And that's the space we are empowering physical retail stores to adopt technology and drive demand and create operational efficiency.
Tell me, what are the challenges? For example, the store owners, the small retailer, the individual retailer is very worried about his data that, this time he may shop through you, but next time the consumer may come to you and not come to him, and you may take him to another store. So those are concerns that the retailers have. I've seen it across platforms, across categories. How are you addressing that?
Absolutely. So when we started out in 2018, And any retailer we go out to kind of come on our platform, despite all the benefits that you offer, this is one constraint that they show, that there is a lot of inhibition to adopt to a platform like this, because they feel there was already a lot of fear from players like Amazon and Flipkart that they are kind of eating into their market. And when you go to them with a very different kind of solution, that's actually, it's not a problem, you're offering a solution to them, still there is a lot of inhibition to adopt.
You're giving them, an inventory management technology.
So what are
sales enablement platform, which will eventually help them do more sales, because as more and more consumers get online and shop online, the commerce will only grow. So, but Reliance or Jio will eventually come in any category that they see promise. So the category that you're in shouldn't be something that they miss out, because they have physical Chrome, they have physical Reliance digital stores. So clearly, something that they'd like to integrate is technology with e-commerce. So you're competing with a very big giant, but I'm sure with your nimbleness and some differentiation, you will succeed. I want to go back to Yashwant. Yashwant, I want to know, today we're talking to you as an entrepreneur. Tell us how difficult it has been in the last few months to make sure that you do revenues that are steady, and in spite of the environment, you innovate and do something that makes you set apart and gets you revenues.
You and me, being the first generation entrepreneurs, we have been sailing in the same boat for a really long time. We know how it works. And unfortunately, the cash flow has been an issue. And unfortunately, the cash flow issue has more to do with the working environment in India. Where the clients generally have a tendency to postpone the payments just at the drop of the hat of any given buyer.
Everyone is conserving cash, Yashwant.
Exactly.
Not just you and me. Whether it's a big player, it's a mid-sized player, everyone is conserving cash.
Top to bottom, the structure is like that, and then it becomes a little bit problematic, particularly for entrepreneurs like you and me who have more heart than more head, actually, and let me be very honest with you.
No, having a heart is a good thing. Having a heart is a good thing. It is always a good thing.
So
I think we are in a 3C economy, a compassionate, caring, and,
Exactly. So what has saved the day probably is our international work, our academic work and other international assignment that have kept on going. In fact, coming from India, we had our own cost advantages to do the work overseas in that environment, and that has actually helped us in getting some more business in that territory. The cost advantage being and of course that the quality of work that comes, of having an additional KPO, I would say. It's a bit more different. It's not just the KPO, it's also when you are moving into the analytics, trying to become not just a data provider, but also a 360-degree solution of how to go for the analytics and a workable solution. So that has saved the day, but still in the Indian market, I hope people listen to more Prime Minister's call of be vocal for local. We being the local guys, I hope that more among the industry people, they go for the local or having the local insights. Still we see a fetish for most of the foreign research companies. It's funny to see. We know that thing, but when a Gora comes and tells us that thing, we say, "Oh wow."
I think one of the things that the Prime Minister has done is to raise our confidence, our self-confidence,
exactly.
to raise our consciousness to be.
So one confidence he has raised, no doubt. Full credits to him that, one confidence that he has certainly raised that coming from India, I feel like confident. No,
yes.
My duty that we should go out.
Okay.
We should conquer the world. We should go into that territory and move out and do something. Why not?
Okay. We open it up now to some larger questions, some lessons, some larger trends that our panelists have observed in the last few months. Dr. Batra, who should we begin with as we open it up to some lockdown lessons?
Kushno is the best person to begin with, because he must give us a sense of what the numbers in e-commerce are looking like for us to see consumer behavior changing. Kushno,
right.
And whether this is a trend that's here to stay, whether it's a sustainable trend or just pent-up demand and just e-commerce boom because of the lockdown.
Right. So, e-commerce in India has been largely dominated by two categories: the mobile phones and fashion. These are the two categories that used to command about 90% of India's e-commerce market share. And to throw a number to that, about 40% of smartphones that are sold today in India are sold through online. So that's the kind of inroad that online has already made, and this is the pre-COVID numbers. But let's look at what are the categories where e-commerce have not been able to make inroad because of the nature of those categories, which are your high involvement buying categories like large electronics, furnitures. Now, what is interesting is that post-COVID and during this whole lockdowns, the consumers have moved, even for this category where people had a lot of reservation going and selecting products online. There we see some inclination, and that number used to be it has moved from single digit pre-COVID to about 18 to 20% post-COVID for high involvement buying categories. So this is how the digital agenda and e-commerce number has moved, and consumers' buying behavior has changed during the COVID. If we look at, say, our business, Arzu's business, like we are into B2B commerce business, where we provide on Arzu platform a retailer an access to large selection, which means a retailer using Arzu platform gets access to a larger selection than Amazon and Flipkart put together. And he gets access to a pricing which is better than, say, any of these platforms, so that he can offer his consumers a better pricing than Amazon and Flipkart, and he can drive up his in-store sales conversion. Now, a solution like this has helped physical retailers to drive his sales conversion post-COVID. So we see that physical retails are kind of using digital agenda or digital platform, are able to retain their old indigenized customer base. But in an overall scenario, the online adoption and consumer behavior towards online has changed during COVID.
Thank you, Kushnood. Let me go to Koral and come back to you, Kushnood and Milan and Yash, by asking you two questions. One is, when do you see the Indian economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months,
Right.
12 months, 18 months? And why do you feel so? Qualify your answer. Second, what are your top lockdown lessons? What has changed in you as an entrepreneur that would hold you in good stead throughout your life? COVID has taught us lessons that possibly will stay with us for a long time. So let me start with Koral. Koral, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom?
Anurag sir, if you allow, I'll answer the second question first and the first question later.
Go ahead.
About the second question, the lockdown lessons, I felt that telling people that I am technologically challenged is not one of the smartest things to do. If you are challenged, it's better that you overcome the challenge and pick it up and better get going, because it doesn't help otherwise. It might be very romantic to say that I'm technologically challenged, especially if you are in a content zone. But then, even authors, even content creators who are basically into written content, at this point of time, it is only technology that can save their skill. And I'm saying skill, not just their intent or their capability, right? I'm talking about their skill. Skill enhancement can only happen through the technological, embracing technology, if I may put it that way. Second thing that I very strongly learned and actually also used in my business, which is about content. I have a thin line between academic and entertainment, and I have one step in both. So what I realized very much in the initial stages was that I have to create the network which will actually bounce back in my favor and give my audience, my customers, an expanded or a richer CV, if I may say that. So even if you are not earning, right? Even if you are not earning being in the content space, what you can do always is expand your CV in the right direction so that it doesn't show as a slump in your CV, even if it shows as a slump in your bank. So at this point of time,
so take it like a break here. Take it like a break.
No, I won't say that it is a break here. It is about just pushing the envelope a little more, because end of the day, it is a complete teamwork. And that teamwork has to start from level 0, because we authors have taken great pride in saying we are technologically challenged. Now, starting that from 0 level to +1 level is a big work that had to happen and has happened. I have been able to do that in a very successful way. I have been able to bring a network together. I have been able to make sure that their CVs are doing well in more ways than one, be it digital conversations, be it the content that they create and the communications that they are trying to put out to the world, reaching out to more ears than only those who are trying to buy it. And also in the process, they are making some good network, good content, whose feedback they are receiving. And that feedback is very necessary, because even if they are not getting a 5-figure salary, they are getting a feedback that is causing skill enhancement. So that is definitely a favorable and welcome, growth, if I may say so. And that I have been able to do in a very successful way. Coming back to your second question, when do I see this lockdown going away, and when do I see the economy bouncing back?
We're going to come to that. We're going to come to that in just a second, about when the recovery will happen. We'll come to that segment in just a second. Let's stay with the lockdown lessons for now. What the trends are that our panelists have witnessed. Let's take that to Yashwant Deshmukh, if we can.
Well, I think improvisation and innovation, that's the key. I think particularly more so for the first generation entrepreneurs, majority of them evolved during that to how to go about it. And I think this lockdown and entire COVID crisis has a silver lining. Some blessing in a disguise is that raising the capital in India, Anurag, we all know, has been always a big headache, particularly for the first generation entrepreneurs who don't really have anything tangible asset from their previous generation to leverage on. And that has been a case in big number of businesses where putting up tangible assets as a prerequisite to start a business. I think this entire crisis has done away with that. Probably many of us would be the new ones, those who are trying to start. They would not be having this, shackle of, we must be having this much of physical space or this much of physical asset in place in order to start. I think this entire crisis has forced everybody to move beyond this thinking thought process, and that is actually something good. It's a blessing in disguise, I would say, because otherwise it was a complete circular thing. You don't have any tangible asset. You cannot get money for your business. You cannot get more money for business. You cannot create an asset, and it was a circular catch-22 situation.
And the cost of capital is so high. Milan is there.
Cost of capital is
the market where cost of capital is high.
Yeah. Exactly. Now we are forced to think beyond that. Now this thing has come down, and I'm sure the next generation of entrepreneurs all of a sudden will realize, office nahi chahiye yaar. What we have been reading about Bill Gates is starting up in a garage. Of course, India में garage नाम की कोई चीज नहीं होती, लेकिन yes, अम्मा की रसोई के एक कोने में बैठ करके हमारा तो वही garage है ना, जहाँ से start कर सकते हैं. But एक छोटा entrepreneur is now free to dream that I don't need this.
In fact, COVID has given a lot of homepreneurs.
Yeah, homepreneurs. So that homepreneurs, yes, absolutely.
Male and female have become out of COVID. Milan, on this show, the number of entrepreneurs we've got, the biggest script is about the cost of capital. And in India, banks are ones like you who are early stage investors and put more like $1 million in at the early stage level can really be a solution. But tell us, when you're raising money at your fund level, what is the kind of conversations you're having?
When we raise funds, the two kinds of investors which we have. One is the institutional investor. There are different set of questions are there for us. And when you talk of the HNI, the high net worth individuals, the different set of questions coming in. The institutions are more in terms of, what kind of expenses we'll be charging to the fund and what, our past background and, what do we see, how do we screen, more about our investment process. They're very, very particular about the way we analyze the proposals, and the entire investment team, investment committee, that is very, very important for them. And on the other hand, when you talk to HNI, when they invest, their set of questions is very different from the institutional side of it. They are more try to compare this because it's a new asset class for them. Private equity as an asset class in India is not that old. Recently only, like for example, the angel funds like us where the minimum limit is 25 lakhs to invest into a fund. So people have now started realizing that instead of getting into direct mutual funds or into some other kind of secured notes, this is also a good kind of asset, you could say diversification kind of thing, or in asset allocation into private equity space. So there is more in terms of returns, more in terms of understanding the space as well. How do we identify the companies? It's not more at the level of the investment process on. It's more on the macro side of it. It's more on the how does the entire space work. So the difference,
how the exits will happen.
Yeah, how the exits will happen, definitely that comes to be added.
And
Money will come back. How long the fund will take? If we can, if it's locked in or not. What if I want to come out of this before the fund period? So all these questions, more of the retail side.
But from a macro standpoint, do you see raising capital at a fund level easier or tougher?
I don't think much has changed, to raise fund at the present moment. I think the kind of commitment which we have, we did not see any kind of commitment going back. In fact, we are seeing a renewed interest now, going forward for this new angel fund. So I don't think much has changed in terms of the risk appetite of the investors as such, both at the institutional level as well as that.
Okay, but Milan, I also want to know what are your own personal top lockdown lessons, and when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? Let's imagine the vaccine is 30 to 60 days away. Looks like it will be earlier. But
if the vaccine is 30 to 60 days away and the kind of low, I'm talking in terms of the Indian economy, not on global, because again, you have to segregate them. Indian economy will, I hope that, it will get much more faster, as compared to global economy, Europe or US. I think there it will take much more time, as compared to India. That is one thing we have to understand, that, we can't compare two economies. So in terms of Indian economy, we were definitely waiting for big flip from the vaccine side, and now that it looks that it's down the corner, as you're saying. Today, so one more company has come up, that their phase 3 trials is successful. So if that happens, and with low interest rates in the economy, the two things which are required to pandemic and this lower rates in that scenario, which is seen after 15 years. I last remember that when I taken a housing loan 15 years back, that time I got a rate of 7%. Today, the same rates are there, even lesser rates are there. We're seeing, so definitely, one sector which will benefit is the realty, as we discussed before that. And this low interest rate, not only realty, but the entire business community, entire businesses, small businesses, or if this kind of rates transmission happens, right now what is happening, SMEs, even today, they're borrowing at 12%, 13%, even today, when the bank rate is sub 6%. So if this transmission RBI is able to make it happen, then definitely we'll see recovery coming very, very fast. And I'll say sustained growth for next 12 to 15 years. I see that kind of growth. That kind of scenario I see, there's no looking back, for India. If we are able to, as I said, if we are able to transfer down this cost of capital, because ultimately it's the cost of capital only, right? Demand will sooner or later come back. Now, what is happening is the SME segment, they are not committing any capital for the capex. Why? Because they're not a lot of things are there.
That's a big change. From big capexes to in everything to an OPEX.
Yes.
Whether it's real estate, whether it's technology, even technology is moving to a SaaS model. You pay as you consume.
Yes.
Software as a service. Almost everything we know is moving to a SaaS model. So you're right. Big changes. We moved from a capex model to an OPEX model. I think that's a big change in the last 8 months. Koral, let me bring you in again. Women have it tougher than men. I know we live in India, and you come from a strata where you're liberated, you pursue your career, so on. But women have to balance both home and their professional life. And especially if you have a young child, it becomes different. Tell us, how have you done that? Manage a husband, manage a child, and manage a growing business amidst a lot of uncertainty.
What you actually asked is very fundamental, and I was not expecting this question. So let me very frankly and honestly tell you what I did. I practically calculated my time, that these are the number of hours I have during the day. Initially, I thought that, okay, I will spend the night hours doing it, but it was not practical. So I just calculated the number of hours, and I explained my son, not my husband. He understood a little bit and he helped in whatever way he could, but I explained to my son that this is one such time when if he doesn't understand and come forward to help, then I will probably perish. I will live, but then a part of my dreams will be gone and I'll not be the same person. And I have an 8-year-old, and he somehow understood that this is some kind of stress that I'm trying to communicate to him. And he asked me what he could do. And that itself was a very welcome thing for me, for him offering to do things, for him asking, and and he really did it. He tried to stand with me, he tried to make himself available even if I didn't require it. That apart, I calculated the number of hours I had. Now, something that as a person, there will be lots of people who might disagree, but then I'll tell you mine. But I personally very strongly believe that as a mother, I'm playing a very major role in the country's future. So that is not something that I can compromise on. I can compromise on anything else, but not my son.
Okay.
Because if I have brought
that's the primary role. So
yes.
you're right. So having a supportive spouse, having a child who can understand and be more sensitive, and allow mother to have her own time because you're all in the home together can help. Khushnood, what's your top lockdown lessons, and when do you see that 40% mobile phones being sold to going to 70-80%? When do you see the economy back in full bloom?
Oh, so Azu won't let that happen. So the reason we are there is that the needle does not move more than 40% online. We are enabling physical retail into e-commerce. We are bringing best of e-commerce in store.
Interject and ask you, what has been the impact on Chinese brands in terms of consumer durables and phones? Because the Chinese brands had huge market share. Has the market share been dented? Is the anti-China sentiment impacted sales of mobile phones that are Chinese brands, though they're fully operational in India and contribute to India's GDP, but still the ownership...
Absolutely, Anurag. I get where you come from. I think it's less about the sentiment. It's more about how the supply got affected during this whole... One was the whole COVID lockdown, and then followed by this whole border issue with China and the trade issue. And a lot of our electronics, consumer electronics, television, mobile phone business depends on either the manufacturing that happens in China or the brands who are operating in our country. So there has been kind of disturbance on the supply side, and the market has felt the heat for last 2 to 3 months. But I think on the demand side, we have not seen much issues. Coming to the sentiment side of the people are buying Chinese products. The same Chinese brand who used to dominate about 70% of our market, they still do. What is happening on a short term is because of constraint on the supply. We depend a lot on some of these countries on the television glass panels that you see on your TV screen. Those panels get manufactured in China, and it comes to India as a component, and we make it. So there we see a lot of constraint in the supply and the prices going up. So we see next 3 to 6 months, the prices of television and consumer electronics will go up. But I see a silver lining there. The good thing that's happening there is all this is pushing our manufacturing ecosystem. A lot of new entrepreneurs coming into kind of establishing their own manufacturing setup, and people increasing their manufacturing capacity. So on a short term, there is an issue, but I think on a long term, it's going to help our manufacturing ecosystem grow, and it's going to help the industry grow. So I see a lot of positivity despite the current short-term issues that industry faces. So that's my take on this.
All right, we're running out of time. So if we can just quickly get to that last round, Dr. Batra, on our panelist perspective.
And today I'll ask my friend Mr. Uday Pratap Singh also. In spite of all this, the corona cases in the last few days have gone to unprecedented numbers. There have been fatalities. If you live in Delhi, you add the air to it. It is really, really deadly, literally. What is the optimism that you see, and why do you have that optimism? What makes you hopeful about the future? Quick answer from all of you. Let me start with Coral. Coral, what makes you optimistic about the future?
I will start from the question that I had not finished, and there lies the answer. I was telling you that I had calculated the number of hours that I had through the day. So I calculated that I probably have about 12 to 14 hours in the day when I am not sleeping and capable of working. So, 2 hours gone for probably cooking and household chores, 2 hours gone for my child's education, right? and I still had those 4 hours gone. I still had 8 to 10 hours. And I was surprised, I still had 8 to 10 hours, which means I had a full day's work time. I don't know what I was doing before
You said the
lockdown.
travel time that has been.
Yes,
And
the travel time, all the time that
gives you positivity. Yes,
all
sure.
the time that I wasted in the
positive
coffee
answers.
shops, all of those
Short
were
answers.
still there.
Yes, short answers from all of you before we wrap the show.
Very short answer is that India is still very on high on optimism index. I mean, our daily trackers are showing still the optimism. We are eternal optimists. But having said that, I guess that we are going to get beyond this crisis within 12 to 16 months probably. And not because that we are going to get a vaccine, but mostly because people are that tired of living in fear of corona. People are no more bothered about it. They are like, oh yeah, let's move beyond this. So once you reach that scale, it is dangerous in terms of public health. I understand that. But at the same time, there is
There is
some
a fatigue.
Yeah,
There's a
it's a
fatigue for
fatigue.
staying in.
Fatigue.
And the optimism is on account of fact that we are resilient and we believe that we got to live with it, so we got to find ways of living with it. Milan, why do you see hope in the future and how are you creating it?
I have been a perennial optimistic kind of guy. So I always see opportunity. And the way I look at India is, it's not a country. It's it's a multi-country kind of thing. I cannot compare this with because I've lived in America as well as London. I've lived, but I think this country is very, very different. The opportunities are quite different. And I believe me, next 10 to 12 to 15 years, you will see one side kind of growth in this country. One side, and there's a lot of factors. Beyond that. One definitely being,
India has a long-term growth story.
Definitely, and it's going to
will possibly bounce back faster than any other.
Very, very fast. It will fast because,
Your final view, one reason why you're hopeful about tomorrow.
Yes, I am hopeful about tomorrow because I live in India and I think India's story has just started to begin now.
Absolutely.
That's a
What this
beautiful
adversity, what this
Uday,
adversity
Uday,
is
what
doing
makes
to us
you-
is kind of strengthening us more, is preparing us better to kind of grow from here.
What makes
I think
you
it's-
hopeful? What
Well-
makes you hopeful that the media business in India will be better in the future than it is now?
Well, we anchors are not used to answering questions. We're used to asking the questions. You put us on the spot. But yes, Dr. Batra, as they say in India, "Umeed pe duniya kaayam hai." We're so used to these comeback stories in India that we bounced back earlier. We've been resilient earlier, and there's no denying that we will be. Still, this new story, this new world order is going to be about the India story. And I think that's the sentiment we're getting world over, not just in the country. And I think that's making us
Absolutely.
optimistic and resilient. And for us in the media, we've seen so much, increase in news consumerism in the last few months. Many people were criticizing the media and critiquing the media before the COVID crisis. And then after the COVID crisis, they realized the importance of the media because that was the only source of information when people were in the lockdown. Yes, sources are changing from conventional TV. Digital is also booming. So they're going to be new and conventional media, new media that's going to be coming out. But there's a lot to be optimistic about. And Dr. Batra, since you put me on the spot, what makes you optimistic? I'm going to ask the same question
What
to you.
makes me optimistic is, my philosophy is whenever it rains, look for rainbows. Whenever it's dark, look for stars. And there are too many rainbows here. One, we focused on ourselves and we were able to perform better. I can talk about myself. Second, you rightly said we are resilient. We're used to doing more with less. That's our basic nature of an Indian. I think that helps us. The current environment helps every Indian. And third, we don't give enough credit to our Prime Minister.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not in any political party. I don't. But the fact is that the Prime Minister has raised our aspiration.
true that.
Yeah.
He has raised our aspiration. Hopefully, in the next few months, you'll see a product company out of India in every sector because we've created opportunity. So really, this makes me.
You're right,
very, very
and
hopeful.
two examples are coming in from I cover entertainment and politics closely, and in entertainment, when theaters were shut, cinemas were closed. Look at the boom for OTT. and suddenly this new content that's booming for the entertainment industry. So they've found new avenues. If we talk about politics, yes, you were right. The Prime Minister spoke about that recently in his Bihar victory speech, that here was a party, the BJP, that was written off by everyone. And from 2 seats, look at where they've bounced back to right now. So I think that's the story of all Indians, and we are going to be resilient. We are going to make this comeback very soon.
Only thing, Uday, I want to say,
yeah.
Hope is not a plan. We also need a plan.
Yes, yes. True. Well, we're going to be looking at this very closely, as we always do daily on our special NewsX Business World panels on the Indian economy. For today's panel, though, that's all the time we have. My thanks to our guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.